Hello, welcome to another episode in my series of World War II stories. My name is Kayleen Reeser, and each week I am reading to you from one of the books I have written in my World War II Legacies series. There are four. This is the first one. We Fought to Win. American World War II Veterans Share Their Stories. Today's story is going to be about Bob Foster, who served in the Army in Europe. Bob Foster of Fort Wayne, Indiana, was one of thousands of Allied troops who arrived at Normandy, France in mid-June 1944 for the Battle of Cherbourg. This skirmish followed the successful Allied landings on June 6th. Foster and other Allied troops disembarked from landing ship tanks, or LSTs, by descending 20-foot ladders into cold water before scrambling toward shore. Taught how to shoot during basic training, the troops' marksmanship skills were of little help as they became easy targets for German marksmen on shore. "I lost a friend during that invasion," said Foster. A 1940 graduate of Bluffton High School, Foster had been raised by a father who served in the French Signal Corps during World War I. It didn't surprise the family, then, when Bob Foster enlisted in the Army in October of 1943. "I just had to go and fight," he told Phyllis Elsie, whom he had married in 1941. After a physical exam at Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indianapolis, Foster completed basic training at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Foster was assigned to the 84th Infantry Division Rail Splitters, Company A, 333rd Regiment, where he trained as a tank mechanic. For those who made it to shore at Cherbourg, the fighting continued for 2 weeks, with an Allied victory. 6 months later, Foster was involved in another brutal conflict at the Battle of the Bulge. The conflict, which began on December 16, 1944, took place during one of the coldest winters on record. For 3 months the soldiers fought in foxholes filled with snow. Many soldiers froze to death. "Dead soldiers were stacked 20 feet high," he said. Struggles against the elements were only part of the challenge to survive. When Foster's captain put him in charge of the platoon for a raid on a town in Belgium, he handed Foster a Browning automatic rifle with 15 clips of .30 caliber shells. It weighed approximately 15 pounds. "Our other BAR man had been killed," said Foster. The BAR could shoot like a machine gun, but was little protection against German tanks, which shot 88mm shells, biggest in the world. When the Germans opened fire on Foster's platoon, a shell critically damaged his captain's leg. Foster was also injured in the knee and head, but he tried to help his captain, pressing his hand against the wound to staunch the flow. Sadly, the captain died. Foster, weak from his own blood loss, collapsed. Medics rushed him to an aid station. Later he was transferred to hospitals in Paris and England, where he recovered, and was returned to his unit in Germany. One night, near Bielefeld, he was leading sentry patrol when Foster heard footsteps on a nearby wooden bridge. He and his patrol hid in bushes, waiting for the right moment, before jumping 5 German soldiers, taking them as prisoners of war. Foster's company was decorated for bravery on June 26, 1945, by President Harry Truman, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery from England. Foster was presented with a Bronze Star by Truman, who shook his hand. During the war, Foster and his wife wrote letters to each other. She reminded him of his spiritual heritage, and Bob Foster believed he saw evidence of God's care for him through the difficult times. One cold, rainy night, as American soldiers sought refuge in foxholes outside a German village, a German Lutheran military chaplain joined them. "He asked if our hearts were right with God," said Foster. "He wore an armband but carried no weapon. I appreciated that he risked his life to help us." Foster was also impressed by Hollywood actors Mickey Rooney, Bob Hope, and Ingrid Bergman, who traveled to areas of war to entertain Allied troops. In May of 1945, Germany surrendered. When the Japanese emperor surrendered in August of 1945, the war was officially over. Thousands of American soldiers were excited at the thought of returning home. Soldiers like Foster, who did not yet have enough points to return, based on time in service, stayed in Europe to maintain the peace. Finally, in April of 1946, Foster had earned enough points to receive his discharge. He was issued a Purple Heart for sustaining injury during battle. After the war, Foster worked for the U.S. Postal Service and a local fire department in Fort Wayne. He and Phyllis were married for 71 years before her death in March of 2013. They were parents to 2 children. "I was happy to serve my country during the war," he said. And this is his picture here. Unfortunately, you can't see his head too well because of the printing. But again, this was taken from Book 1 in my World War II Legacy series, We Fought to Win. American World War II veterans share their stories. My name is Kayleen Reeser. I hope that you will subscribe to this channel, and I will be back next week with another exciting story from veterans that I have interviewed. Thanks to all of those veterans watching. For your service, we would not be free without you.